Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Mile High Game Guys board gaming podcast. I'm your host, Adrian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we are here to review a board game because it's a review episode.
Mm-hmm.
And the game that we are going to be reviewing is Argent the Consortium.
Yes.
So Argent is a 2015 release from designer Trey Chambers. Art is from Jennifer Easley and Eunice Abigail Tew, published by Level 99 Games. It plays 2 to 5 players and takes 60 to 150 minutes.
Huh.
Zach
30 minutes per player, specifically.
is what it says on the box. Zach, you got a rules rundown for us?
Yeah. So in Argent the Consortium, you are competing against the other Magic department heads for the Chancellor position at the Argent University of Magic. There are 12 members of the Consortium that you're trying to persuade to vote for you. Each voter cares about one thing in particular, and that could be influence, supporters, the most wisdom or intellect, etc. Over 5 rounds, you will be sending out your apprentices to gather mana, gold, vault cards, supporters, spells, and do spell research. Each apprentice is a part of one of the 5 schools of magic, which lets them use special abilities when being placed. This includes being able to wound another mage and take their spot, protection against spells, and being able to be placed as a fast action. There are also bell tower cards that once all of these are taken, that ends the round. You will then resolve all spaces of the cards in a specific order using merit badges if they are required. And then after 5 rounds, you will reveal each voter and give them to whoever has the most of whatever they want, with influence breaking ties. Whoever has the most voters wins the Chancellorship.
Right on.
Chancellorship.
Yes. A ship of chancellors.
Chancellor-isms.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a nice, concise overview of a game that has a lot of stuff going on in it.
Yes.
So to start this thing off here, let's talk about some of our initial impressions. Zach, what were your thoughts going into this game?
Honestly, like I hadn't, for whatever reason, like I'd heard of Level 99 games before. In fact, like I have their like Millennium Blades. When I had first heard of that game, I was like, oh my God, this sounds amazing. And then I ended up not backing that Kickstarter and stuff. But I missed them doing the first edition of Argent the Consortium. And did we even talk about the second edition? I don't even remember. But the second, like when it was on Kickstarter.
It was right around Gen Con.
Oh.
Yeah, it was right around Gen Con.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think we did.
But when we got sent the review copy of it, that was like, oh, sweet, I want to try it out. And so I looked a little bit into it, and I saw that it was a worker placement, but with a ton of direct player interaction. And I was like, oh, this might be for me. So I was heavily anticipating it before our first play.
Okay. Jeff, what about you?
I didn't hear much about this game before we played it the first time. I had some descriptions of it from you people, but I didn't. I like worker placement games, but I didn't know much about the game before we started playing it for review.
Right
on. For me, it was kind of similar to Jeff there. I didn't know much about this going in. Like, certainly not before we got the review copy and everything. But then I heard, it was a worker placement with a whole lot of different variable scoring and things like that. A little bit of player interaction and things like that. And worker placement is one of my favorite mechanisms in board games. And I am no stranger to games that allow you to interact harshly with other players. We're a big fan of screw you mechanics over here. So I was definitely pretty interested when we first sat down to play it.
One thing we didn't mention.
Oh, yeah. We mentioned in the BGG thread, we did receive this as a review copy from Level 99 Games in anticipation of their Kickstarter for second edition, which should be delivering soon.
I think April, June.
Yeah.
Oh, so not soon.
Yeah. Not soon, but like early,
like 5 months.
Yeah, early-ish next year.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so this is a review copy that we received from Level 99 Games. So full disclosure, we like to be honest about that kind of thing. So you can decide if it colors our opinions of this game.
Our opinions will be colorful, much like the schools of magic in this game.
Very true.
Which, speaking of colors and things like that, let's segue into components.
Okay. Do you want to go with the good first or the bad?
Let's just mix it all in there in a nice big blender. What do you got, Zach? You can go good, bad, whatever stands out.
So, as someone who is a fan of anime.
The anime?
No, just anime in general.
Oh, not the anime.
No, the anime.
Okay.
No. I've always been a big fan of Level 99 Games art because this is in their like World of Endine's universe, which is like Millennium Blades is in it.
I was about to say where the Millennium Blades live.
Yes. But basically it is an anime style art, and it's very colorful, and I am a big fan of it. Now, as someone who's not a fan of anime, Adrian.
Yeah, I don't care for the art style in this. Like, it's not. It could be a lot worse. Like, there's a lot worse anime art styles out there that I really don't like.
Yeah.
Like, this one's fairly subtle.
Yeah, I was gonna ask: is it you don't like it because it's bad, or because you don't like anime?
Because I don't like anime.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's certainly not the worst anime art I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's an art style that I do not like.
Right. Yeah. It's like, unlike Agricola, which just has bad art. Yeah.
And Caverna. Don't forget for Caverna.
Caverna.
Yeah. One of my all-time
Anyway.
favorite games, Caverna.
No, I know.
The one saving grace with the art style of this game is it's a game where I don't hardly ever notice the art. I'm too
Gotcha.
busy doing things to be paying attention to, like,
The art is so minor to the actual gameplay that it's not,
Right,
It's
okay.
like
and it doesn't distract.
I don't like the way the game looks on the shelf. Like, the art on the box, I don't like. I don't notice any of the art when playing. But yeah, so
I'm pretty middle of the road. I like anime,
Mhm.
and the art's anime-y, but I'm not like, I don't hate anime art styles
Gotcha.
like some people.
Yeah.
Adrian.
Yeah. Wes, one of the people we played with, he likes anime as well, and he liked the art as well. So I think it really comes down.
do you like anime
Yes,
art?
yeah.
Like, as an art style? Like, not even necessarily do you like anime shows? Like, because I could imagine, like, there's other things that, like, I don't particularly like a certain art style or something, but I still like
Yeah.
the content.
Mhm.
When it comes to like television or comics or whatever.
Yeah.
But so I could see like you might like anime content, but if you don't like the art style specifically, you're not going to love
Right,
the art
yeah.
style of this game.
There's been far worse anime art style.
Oh god,
Very
yeah,
true, yeah.
for sure.
This is on the higher end.
Yeah.
Mhm. They've had many games to make sure that it looks okay.
Yeah.
Related to art and like kind of visual stuff,
Mhm.
I would be remiss if I did not point out that the player colors they're all very different colors, but the way they then muted those colors makes them very hard to distinguish out on the board.
So I think, like we said, this is the first edition. I know in the second edition. So for the first edition, the little the player pieces that you have like a wizard sculpt, and each of the different schools of them do they look different?
Yes, they are very different color models for color.
Well, I'm not talking about the model color. I'm talking about like the actual models themselves.
The models are
the gray
different.
looks different from the green.
Okay. Yes.
from the red.
Yes. It does. Yeah.
The physical
Yes.
shape of it is different.
Yes. And so it has that. And then you have this bronze-ish looking clip
Base
that goes underneath, and then you have a cardboard token with your characters or your characters like color, and then also what their symbol is.
Yeah.
But that looks, especially because shadows can play a part in this because of how you set them. They can be very muted, like you said. And so I know we had a hard time, especially between the gray
And the black.
or the black and the blue,
Yeah.
because technically there's a light gray and then the black, which looks like a dark gray.
Yes.
But that one looked very similar to the blue one. I know, and like basically we had a really hard time on some of those.
And until finally in the last game we played, Jeff was like, hey, how about we just turn them so that they face whoever's player they came from?
We're like, God damn it, Jeff, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
God damn.
But those colors, and like I think the colors, if they were like a brighter color, would be very
yes.
different. But the fact they muted them down so much,
Especially for an anime game.
yeah.
Well, I feel like the colors are better on the actual like the player board.
Oh, yes.
But it's just those tokens themselves.
Yeah.
They don't pop.
Speaking of that entire little setup with the minis and the little clips, some of the minis, some of them are too tight to like it's hard to get them into the clip. Some of them are so loose that like if you pick up the mini without the clip stays behind.
Yes.
So they're very inconsistent in that regard. The minis are also kind of like a softer plastic. So like if you were somebody like Ant who is obsessed with painting every mini you ever own and you wanted to paint these, that might lead to some painting, chipping stuff.
Cracking.
With them being a little bit softer models. I don't know what the quality is like on the models in second edition. So I don't know how that will change going forward.
But yeah, we'll discuss like the changes that the second edition makes at like probably at the end.
Towards the end.
Yeah.
one positive, just to kind of jump over that. The rule book has a nice like linen cover, and it's like it's like holy shit, this is like the nicest rule book I've ever picked up in my life.
So nice.
It feels really great.
Yeah.
Most of the rest of like the components, like the cards and stuff, are the same way. They've got really good, nice finishes on them. They feel solid. The cardboard room tiles are big and chunky cardboard.
Double sided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
everything is
pretty much everything is double sided to be whatever the hell you want it to be.
yeah. The
mana crystals are huge.
Yes.
huge blue chunky like plastic crystal looking things.
The money is a plastic coin.
Yeah.
Which,
kind of a thin, light plastic. It has a nice clinky sound when you've got a bunch of them kind of there.
Yeah.
But
I think the size sort of makes up for the sort of cheapness that it feels.
They're big, like $half.
If they're small, cheap plastic ones, it'd be like, these feel like weird. But I think the fact that they're big enough,
probably
makes it,
over an inch across.
Yes, yeah.
the color choice is a little weird. Like they're supposed to be silver and gold, but the gold looks like copper, which looks like it should be worth less than the silver.
Yeah.
So that's a little odd. It looks like they should be reversed colors for what the pieces actually are.
Also, this is a table hog.
Yeah. And then one other thing before we get into that side of it, because I do have a lot I want to do there. The main board that holds the consortium voters, it's doing the same thing which almost all of cardboard does in the state of Colorado, and it's warping like a motherfucker, which was not a big problem until the most recent game. Like it was really starting to bug me. Like it was like just lay flat.
Right.
Like, please lay flat.
Please just be flat for once.
God,
I can't. I don't know what Scythe is doing right now.
It's acclimatizing. It's sitting in the box.
You open it up and it's just a tube. Like all the cardboard is folded onto itself. One thing I do want to say on the cards, just in general, is I do like that all the cards say on the back exactly which ones they are.
Yes. So you don't have to remember some symbol or something. It says
cards.
consortium. It says supporter. It says vault. It says spell.
You don't have to remember what the back of the card is on the front.
Yeah.
So
you won't accidentally mix up cards.
Yeah. Right.
Which is nice.
Which is nice because there's going to be stuff all over this table. Like it's I have a huge table, and a 4-player game took almost every piece of available space on that table.
Because you have a supporter row and the influence track and the vaults and the spells and the legendary spells and the bells and
supporters and the magic abilities,
and then there that's your you have your own stuff
and
too.
Then
that's
also
all
you have your
of
own
those.
tableau, and as you get supporters or spells, those are taking up things, and then you need room to be able to tap them or somehow indicate that you've used them, and
they have nice large oversized cards for all the spells and such,
which makes sense because of there's a lot of they want text and pictures on them
because each spell is basically 3 different levels,
and they're all pretty much unique.
It makes sense for some of them, but I think every card could have been scaled down one size reasonably well. I think the spells could have been sized down to a regular size card in most instances. There's a few of them that don't, so I assume that's why they blew them up, because they didn't want one card to be I have to look at something else.
I think it would have been cool if those were shrunk down, but the legendary ones stayed that super big. Because then it made it feel these are
more legendary. Yeah. I definitely think that the vast majority of supporters could have been mini cards. I
don't know if I'd like that.
Influence track could have been much smaller with all of the
that entire the consortium cards. Those could have been
the consortium.
Those could have been tokens, small cardboard tokens.
I could see that they could be mini cards because there is some text on there, but I think it's also they wanted
all the art.
You'd want to have the art. They wanted the art on there too. And
all the art on all the cards is very nice.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I definitely,
aside from the fact that I dislike the art itself, I'm never in favor of making a game less functional just to accommodate art.
Well, I don't think it's less functional.
It takes up way too much space.
It takes up more space, but I wouldn't say that means it's less functional.
It makes it harder for people. We were running that. I wanted to use the table sleeve so that it would fit more comfortably on the table, but then Jeff or Wes sitting at the ends wouldn't have been able to see anything on the opposite end of the table.
We would, if we'd have had 2 on each side instead of having
that actually probably would have been a better idea, but still, when this game gets to be so sprawly that somebody sitting at one end of the table can't see everything else, then that's inhibiting function. And I would have preferred them to find ways like the mini cards for the consortium, and you wouldn't have needed that big card. Like, you need some kind of a track to track influence points, and it needs to be a common track because of the way they resolve ties, so that the stack matters. But they could have shrunk that down significantly.
I definitely agree. It could have been shrunk down, but I think it's like you still could have had the same size of the cards, because there was a decent amount of space between each of them. So
yeah. I mean, I just think the consortium ones especially are ones where they could have been mini cards.
Yeah, I could have understand
easiest.
if they were mini cards.
But I think almost every regular size card in that game could have been a mini card. Like, the item cards certainly could have been. None of them had so much text on them that they couldn't have been a mini card just fine. You know, like Zombicide has shit tons of mini cards that have tons of text that explain how certain weapons or items work, and it does just fine. You know, I think they could have done a lot to reduce the footprint of this game to make it more like functional. Like, if you're playing on any kind of a small table, like, good fucking luck. Like, I've got a big fucking table, and it took pretty much the entire table. I couldn't imagine playing this like on the table we use now for recording that used to be my old gaming table. It would have never fit. We couldn't have played.
Yeah, I think part of that too is also sort of their style, because their style
Millennium Blade takes up a ton of space too.
So,
which, I mean, like, if
that
you're
one,
playing
that one you couldn't do smaller cards.
No,
but that's beside the point.
Yeah, if you're playing it like a convention or something, you're taking up all this space. Like, you know, people are going to come by and be like, "Holy shit, what's this game?" Like, so I get it from a wanting to have it be a eye-catching hog of a game, but for me, I don't super appreciate that. But yeah, anything else anybody wants to chime in on art components? I think that covers pretty much everything.
I definitely think the player boards could have been smaller, easily. Like that, you have this little track here, and then you have your discard pile for your cards. But that could have easily shrunken by a good 50% and still keep the art and all of those things together.
Yeah.
So
they're also, I mean, like, you really don't hardly need them at all anyway.
No.
Like, they've got spaces for things, but they're things that could just have sitting next to you on the table.
Yeah, because each character you take has their own unique spell.
Yeah.
Technically, that could have been like, this is who you are, and then you just need to have a discard pile and a place, you know, and just have your mages. But you just have to remember that you have a max of 7, which I guess could be on the player card and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also, those reference sheets, those are also gigantic.
Yeah,
that's true.
Each one of them is the size of one of the pages of the rulebook.
Yeah, which is
really big,
really, really big.
Yeah,
which I'm torn. Like, they're nice to have, like, so people can reference, like, oh, what are the possible, like, consortium voters, so I know what they're going to go for. Like, and it's got common symbols and stuff, so you can be like, what's that symbol do? Oh, it's right here, really. But you're always like having them off to the side,
because
you know,
can't actually
because there's
keep
no
it
room
on
for
the
them on the
table.
table.
Yeah.
So they're also kind of flimsy, cheap paper, but for what they are, they're fine.
Yeah,
They're reference sheets.
yes,
Yeah.
Not everyone can have a 6-page booklet for their reference sheet.
That's right. Right on. Well, moving on to rules and rules explanation. From a learning the game perspective, like, if you're sitting down, so the first time we played, it was all three of us, and none of us had played. Zach, you'd watch like a video.
Yes.
That was a brutal learning experience.
So, like we said, because this game has so much stuff, it is very imposing to look at if you don't know how the game works. Because there's all of these cards, all of these different types of cards, all of these different tiles out, and all of these tiles have, you know, their own little, I wouldn't say their own little set, like, they have each row has its own thing that it's supposed to do, and you look at it and you're like, you know, even if you're telling somebody, oh, this is how you play the game, you could still be like, on your first time, be like, I have no idea what I want to get.
But I did notice that later when we went to teach Wes, after you know the game and you've played once, it's a lot easier to explain in a way that makes sense, like, to kind of go in an order that makes sense and logically kind of clicks. And it's like, okay, you know, here's what you're ultimately trying to do. Here's how you're going to start to kind of go about that. And here's what each of these different areas do.
And it's definitely true because, like, you know what's once you know how the game works, you can be like, these are the things that are important that you might not realize they are important your first time playing. So I think having that sort of guiding hand to like you said, is pretty important.
Yeah. Other than that, like, I don't think it's brutally hard to teach if you know it. There's a substantial amount of errata, typos, and FAQ on BGG for this first edition, which a lot of that I know is fixed in the second edition.
Yes. And I think a lot of it is the same sort of thing that you can see in like thematic style games that have a bunch of cards that have a bunch of unique cards that do things, that you'll run into a lot of cases where it's like, okay, well, this, because it has this one rule. Well, how does this one card affect with this one rule? And the rule book, especially if it's a first edition, isn't going to relatively have every single instance of anything happening.
No.
So, which obviously can be a little frustrating, but I think that just comes with the territory of having all of these unique things, that sometimes you get these weird instances
where things interact. Yeah.
So one thing when setting up this game is that, like, luckily the rulebook says, like, if the first time playing, here's how you want to actually play the game. Here are the ones that are going to have probably be the most balanced, the easiest things to learn, because like we were saying, every single tile for locations has an A and B side.
Mm-hmm.
And there are more tiles than you use in a game. So you could use the Archmage studied on this game, but not use that on the next one. All the players have an A and B side. And then you also have all of the mages, your little apprentices. Each of them has an A and B side. And those are completely different in how those interact with each other.
Very, very different.
Yeah. So this is also one of those games that once you still get once you get the game and you know how to play, there still may be times when after you've set it up, if you've set it up randomly, or you're like, oh, let's try these other things, you're like, okay, I still need to sort of figure out how these things work.
Right.
But there's a little bit of rule learning every time you play for probably the first 5, I would assume, like 5 to 10 ones, just until you've seen everything.
Right. I think that pretty much wraps up most of the rules. I mean, there's not a ton for as much as what goes on here. There's not a lot to cover in depth about the way any specific rules work or anything.
It's a worker placement game. Then
yeah.
Whoever gets there first gets first priority on what happens in that room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then pretty much everything else would just be like in gameplay.
Yep. So. Which I think makes it a great time to move over into gameplay.
Yes.
Hooray!
So my first comment on gameplay is, we mentioned during the introduction part of the thing that on the board it says 30 minutes per player. If you remember my giggle. I cannot imagine this, even the most recent game we played where we made sure we didn't have anybody learning, everybody had played, everybody kind of knew the game and everything. It still took probably closer to
2.5, 3 hours.
It took about 3 hours.
Yeah. I feel like it was pushing 45 minutes a player rather than 30 minutes a player, which really starts to add up with more players. So it's not as big of a deal. An extra, if you're playing 3 players, that's an extra 45 minutes. That's not a huge difference, but you add that 4th player and all of a sudden you're an hour over what their time frame said. It starts to be a long game for what it is, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely did feel like a long game, but I felt that because you feel engaged the entire time, that it didn't feel long.
From turn to turn, it can be different.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, I'm going to place one guy here, or I'm going to use this one spell, or I'm going to use this one item.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to say was when, speaking of the tiles, how the worker placement tiles play out is whenever you resolve them from left to right and then top to bottom, because you're placing these tiles down at the start of the game. Not only is it you're using unique tiles, but if you have the astronomy on the first one versus it being on the last one, that these things can play out very differently, because whatever you can technically take a worker placement spot of something you don't have them, say you need to, you want to buy something and you have no money right now, you can place a guy on there, and then as long as you get money through, like, as long as you resolve one of the other worker replacement spots that gets you money by the end, before you reach that spot, that you can use that money to then buy something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that you can take a spot and be like, all right, I have something to work for this round. Is somehow have to make sure I get like the merit badges, which are, you know, it's based on how much influence you have. You get more and more merit badges. And so you can be like,
those let you into like the
better spots.
The number one spot
Yeah.
on pretty much every board is a merit, and then sometimes even the 1 and the 2 are
Yeah.
both merits, and they're very powerful spots.
Yes.
But yeah, and so you can early on be like, I'm going to claim this merit spot, and then I'm just going to really try and hope that I get a merit badge by the time I need to activate that spot.
Or people can screw you out of maybe not taking something.
Very true.
Someone be like, man, I wish someone did that one thing.
So I could have
Jerks.
one more influence. I do like that the game offers you a way to get influence, like if you need it like that, because when you're resolving the spots, you can choose not to take the reward and just get an influence instead.
At any time, you can forego the reward for
and the resolution phase.
Yeah. But any action that you would do, you can forego doing that action and just take an influence.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I don't want to do this action that gets me 2 influence. I'll just take 1, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is the prime example.
I mean, I can't see another reason to use it.
No.
Obviously.
But all these action spaces, there's a million different action spaces, and most rooms have the same general theme, but like if you get there first, you kind of get the best version of that room, and second or third.
Like,
or there
one of the, like, for an example of that, like in one, you might get like a card and money, and then the spot below it is a card or money, and then the third spot is like just money.
Yeah.
You know, and so and they all kind of follow a similar formula of that. But continue with what you're saying, Jeff.
others are a little nicer than that, where it's a bunch of different things, mostly the spell and spell research one, where like even the second, third, and fourth ones, they are all very beneficial. It just kind of depends on which one you want to do that turn, because one is like buying stuff and the other is like research and getting books and lore, or whatever the
wisdom, the scrolls.
Yeah, those could be probably better defined in exactly what is what, but because you need lore to learn a spell, and then you need
intelligence to learn a spell.
Intelligence, which is a book, to learn a spell, and then you need wisdom, which is a scroll to upgrade the spells. That's There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff, and so I was talking with Wes after our last game, and we were sort of talking about like why we were thinking it was taking so much longer than the 30 minutes per player. So I definitely think one of the reasons why is, so every time someone buys a vault card or researches a spell card, a new one comes out, and those cards all have text information, and so a lot of times someone was like, oh, I was going to do this thing over here. Oh, that one came out. Let me see if that's something I actually want to get, and make you readjust your plan. And then also at the end of each round, all the any leftover supporters, vault cards, or spells get wiped out, and all new ones come out. And so that's at the start of every turn. Everyone's like, okay, well, let's see what new things came out. So you have to sort of stop to figure out which cards just came out. And I think it just basically comes down to the fact that this is a game, and also with all the interaction with the apprentices and the mages. This is a game where it's like you want to try. You can try and come up with a strategy for this is how you want your round to go, and people can actively fuck that up. And then for people that are very strategically minded, going long term, they're like, oh, now I have to plan something completely different because I needed to do that spot, and it's not like, and someone literally goes, all right, I'm going to destroy your guy. You are not at that spot anymore.
So this is where I think it's interesting, because like, I don't think you're wrong with a lot of what you're saying there, but I think it's interesting, like I catch a lot of flack for taking long turns occasionally.
Occasionally, he says.
I think it's blown way out of proportion how long I take turns, but regardless, I think that like it's interesting with this game. Like there's never been even a spot where my AP is kicked in like
There's been once or twice, but it is
for the most part.
Yeah.
This is a game where it's like it's my turn. I know what I'm doing. Like I'm already doing what like my thing.
And I think part of that is that like as you know, when you were playing with this is a game that we saw give Jeff AP. Which
Yeah.
I haven't seen that happen.
Jeff was also drunk and distracted by Blood Bowl
I wasn't-
at game night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't that drunk?
No.
More distracted by Blood Bowl.
Yes. And then when we were playing with Wes was getting AP too. So I think part of it happened to be just that other people were getting AP, which allowed.
But I think
you
it's
to
interesting
yes.
that like you're saying there that like more strategic minded people,
Yes.
aka me.
I think
for some reason I don't have an issue with that in this game.
No.
And it's not even like, you know, I don't want to spoil the final thoughts, but it's not even like it's something where my level of involvement is to where I don't care and I'm just doing things. It's, you know, like I've done very well. Like I've won 2 out of the 3 games, and the game I lost on tiebreaker. So I've done well, but I've done well without like overanalyzing every little thing. And I think it's interesting that this is a game that doesn't click AP like that for me, but does for people like Jeff who normally don't have that issue at all.
Do you think because people can you've sort of tried to plan ahead already or plan for like plan Bs and stuff like that, maybe because people can't, you're like, I'm going to go here, but if I go here, I'm pretty sure someone's going to fuck me over. So I need to try and figure out a second thing to do in case that happens.
A little bit.
Okay.
I think another kind of part of it is that this is a game that I don't think there's a lot of like, I don't get very strategic with this. Like, it's not like Lisboa, you know, that we just announced a giveaway for earlier this week. You know, when I play that game, like I'm looking like 3 or 4 turns ahead. Like I'm looking like, you know, what do I want to do way down the road? Whereas this one, like, especially the way the rounds play out where like it completely resets and you get a new one. You can't like, it's not even an option.
Yes.
So it's very much a, like, I've got 5 or 6 moves. What am I trying to do like this round rather than what am I trying to do this round to affect next? I mean, there's a little bit of that. Like at some point, like if I can, I want to take the first player so that next turn I can have access to claiming this really good spot. But there's not much of that. It's more or less like, what is the best thing for me now? And I feel like a lot of times when we were playing, I could see like, all right, there's like 4 spots that are best. And it's like, okay, so I'm planning on going to one of those. Oh, well, that one's taken. That one's taken. That one's taken. Okay, well, that narrows my choice is made for me. You're like, you know, if there's 2 left, it's like, okay, well, that one, and then I could do. Okay, I'll do. Yeah, like it's just it goes quick, I guess, in my brain. I don't know. I definitely don't feel like I'm strategically playing way far out in this game at all.
No, I mean, I definitely agree because you can't. You can't. Yeah.
So my big gripe with the game is certain combinations of your wizarding powers can be kind of underrepresented in the spell cards.
Right.
Specifically, certain facings of the green, red, and blue characters.
Okay.
And what they interact with the spells. So the last game we played, red was pay a mana, wound, wizard, send him to the infirmary. Green was immune to wounding. And that kind of limits what you can do in the game because there's a lot of interaction in the game. The only way to get rid of a green character at that point is to banish them.
Or move them away.
Yeah. But you even went through all the spell cards to try and find cards that did banish, and you found...
I found 1 regular one, and then I think 2 of the legendary ones, but they also had wounding. Like a lot of the things are very wound heavy.
Yes,
it was 5 cards that have wounding versus 3 for moving and 1 for banish for the regular cards,
which makes greens especially powerful because they're immune to wounding regardless. Like, if your spell says cause a wound, they're immune. Whereas like blue is just immune to spells. So like if you have other cards that do wounds, you can still
there are a lot of.
Yeah, there's a ton of. And I think it's interesting, like the item that prevents wounding is cheaper than the item that prevents banishing and moving.
Yeah.
Even though those are less likely things to happen in the first place. Some of that balance felt off Like, I really hesitate to say a game's unbalanced unless I've played it hundreds of times.
Because there is so much variability in this game.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, like, there is definitely a thing where it's like, if you feel that the green mages are overpowered,
flip it over.
And now it does something else different. And then everybody, like, then wounding is like super OP in that game.
Yeah. But then you can just flip over the red mage to the one that just steals mana.
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll find mana hard to get.
Yeah. That was one thing I found interesting for the different games that we played, is that because we use different tiles and different, either different sides of tile or different tiles in general.
Mm-hmm.
One of our games, money was super hard to get, but mana was just flowing out of a fountain.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one,
you.
Also for me, yes, but that's also
my power gets me 2 mana. I got an item that gets me 2 mana, and I can steal mana. Yeah. I felt the mana pinch in every game we played.
It was especially hard in that last one, though.
Yes.
Because I don't think there was any spots that got you it.
There,
except the one that was just like dump dudes into it and get it.
That one was one. There was also the astronomy tower that let you get it too.
Yeah, but then you'd have to. It's only once around the track that it's on there.
There's technically 2, but it was the wisdom and 2 mana or 4 mana.
Yeah.
So,
or get wounded and get 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And then nobody wounds you when you want to get wounded, so you can get mana.
But that's because you're like, I know.
We knew you wanted.
Yeah, we're like, oh, he fucking wants mana. I'll let him take that crappy 3.
Strategy.
Yes.
Yeah.
One other thing I wanted to say is the first game that we played. One thing I found that was really interesting was in Terraforming Mars, first mention. If you get some certain cards really early, like I've seen games where it's like if all three of us were playing, you two ended up passing, and I'm like, oh sweet, I have 5 more moves to do. Awesome, I can do all these things, and you guys can't respond at all.
Yeah.
In this game, because the round ends when all of the bell token cards are taken, if I have a lot more moves than you guys, if you guys run out of moves, you guys start taking the bell tower cards.
Yeah.
And so I've seen the turn end when people are like, oh, I still had like 4 or 5 more things I wanted to do, because you're just like, oh, well, I don't have anything else to do, so I'm going to make sure you don't do it.
Yep.
So getting too many things to do can actually sort of hurt you, because you're like, oh, I can't
do them all.
You can't do them all. And so if you're like, oh, I want to focus on these other things first, knowing that I get to do these things later, and then it gets cut off early, you're like, oh, son of a bitch, I can't do that now.
Although I noticed that, like, especially the first time we played it, because we didn't realize how much that could affect. But then once we realized that, then it's like, okay, well, now that I know that, it puts a lot more emphasis on like the purple mages that can be placed as a fast action, and then you can place another mage as your standard.
Yeah.
And then the gray mages that you can place after a spell. So you could do something like, I do a purple mage as a fast action, and then I cast this spell that lets me place 2 mages. And then because I did a spell, now I placed my gray.
Yeah.
I just did 4 mages in one turn, and now all my other actions, like 4 of my 5 mages are on the board, and now I can do my other actions and wait and place that last mage later, or claim an early bell tower card to put pressure on people, and I noticed that in those last 2 games that people did a lot more of those type of things, looking for ways to chain actions and chain abilities, which coincidentally, like, for the theme of being powerful mages trying to become the president of this mage school, that fits. Like, of course you'd be chaining your magic and using things to work and manipulate, and that was one area where the theme really connected.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask. What did you guys think about the theme of this game in regards to how it actually played?
The rooms are where most of the theme came out of, I think. You throw some wizards in there, and the interaction between the wizards was pretty cool too. But with how they work based on which A or B side it is. But yeah, I felt wizardy.
Okay. Yeah.
The spells probably helped bring it together the most when you got a good one and could upgrade it and use it without everyone being immune to wounding the whole time.
Yeah, I definitely feel the theme in this game. Like, there's a lot of things that, especially when you think of it in terms of, like, I'm a headmaster, like, controlling, like, my entire region of mage, and then I've got influence throughout the school, even with other departments. Like, I'm the head of the, math department version of this school. And like, but yeah, I've got a buddy down the hall in the chemistry department. He's going to help me out with some chemistry related stuff.
Right.
And then we're all trying to impress this generic board of directors that we don't necessarily know all of their motives. Yeah, no, I thought it all came through. And then spells and items and things acted like spells and items and mana, you know, charges and uses. And yeah, I thought the theme came through very well.
Yeah.
You're not pasting this shit on anything else, that's for sure.
Yeah, not very easily.
Yeah, it would be hard.
I mean, you could paste it on Harry Potter, but then that's still just magic.
Yes.
Yeah. Although I do like that, you know, it's called Wounded in here, but we immediately just called it murder.
Murder. Yeah.
I'm going to murder your guy.
Murder you.
Oh, I'm protected from murder. This guy, he's like, he just anti-murder. You just can't do it, man.
It's like got one of those big puffy bear suit things.
The Eli Roth movie, Death Proof.
Yeah.
That's that mage. He's death proof.
He's like
What's up, Kurt Russell? How's it going?
Yeah. We need more Kurt Russell references.
Maybe. My big complaint with this game.
Are we getting to the end, the scoring now, or
No. So this is a gameplay.
Okay.
This is a gameplay complaint that will lead nicely into this. One of my big complaints with this game, from a gameplay perspective, I first noticed in the first game we played. So at the beginning of the game, one of the setup steps you do is everybody gets to look at a different one of the consortium cards, which there's 12 of them in total. 2 are always face up.
And they're always the same.
And they're always the same. Most influence and most supporters. So you know those 2 are always in the game. But then of the remaining 10 that are face down, everybody gets to look at one at the start of the game. And you can't look at one somebody else has looked at, whatever, for that initial setup. So the first game we played, the first card I looked at was most marks, which marks are coincidentally what let you look at the consortium. So I was like, all right, well, sweet. Like, the more I look at what the final scoring is, the more likely I am to win this one final scoring. So I looked at a bunch of them. I knew what a lot of the final scoring was going to be. And I tried to focus on a lot of those different ones. And then comes final scoring in that first game. And Jeff, who had only ever looked at like one additional one past his initial, so he knew what 4 of the 12 was.
Yes. Yep.
Versus me, who knew what like 8 or 9 of the 12 were. Jeff did a really good job of winning pretty much all of them.
6 of them?
No, you got 5.
5 of them.
5, and one of them was a tiebreaker with Adrian.
Yeah. So then, you know, we played the second game, and Jeff wasn't in, and that one, everybody looked at the marks a couple times, like just the way the setup of the board was. One of the best spots was like, gain a mark and do something else. And so everybody was almost always like, yeah, I'll do that. So everybody had a fair amount of marks, and that game coincidentally ended in a 4-4-4 3-way tie that was broken only by influence.
Yep.
And then the last game, I decided to try to repeat Jeff's performance. I didn't look at a single mark besides the very first initial one, and I cleaned house. Like 7.
You had 6. Wes had 3. I had 2, and Jeff had 1.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's where and it goes back to that earlier thing where part of why I don't have AP with this game is like, I don't feel like there's a good way to plan ahead. Like you in the second game, Zach, you were like, oh, I was banking on like these 4 cards, and then they were all just out of the game. Like
same thing happened on this one too. I've had shitty luck for, because there were 2 ones that if they had been there instead of the 2 that you won, then shit would have been different.
Yeah.
But,
so that's what bothers me is the fact that like I can win a game where I don't know, and I know 3 of 12 final scoring, and there's a whole bunch that might not even be in the game, and just by doing things, like trying to do what I think's the best action each placement or whatever, like I can win 50% of the available votes in a 4-player game seems ridiculous.
So I actually, just to color all of this, I was reading a thread on Board Game Geek, and it was actually by the creator of the game.
Okay.
Is that like the
I wish you would have sent me this thread because and I'm gonna have to. Go ahead and tell me what the
Okay.
thread is, but I wish I had if there was designer information.
Well, no. I was just gonna say is that he said like when you win this game, the best way to win this game is when you win a thing by an inch, or that like when it comes to each of the different voters, it's like win by an inch or just lose by a mile. So that first game when you had all of those marks and you're like, oh, having all these marks, I'm gonna get to see so much stuff. I think I had 3 or 4 more marks on there, and Jeff had none-ish.
Yeah.
That it was like you won that one by so much that it sort of hurt. Like you by doing all that, looking at all of these things caused you to not actually be able to do those things.
So yeah, but by trying to figure out what end game scoring.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying is that you don't have to know all of them.
Yeah, I mean, clearly you don't need to if you put out 10 marks in the game, you're probably not playing optimally.
But what I was going to say is so you knew influence and you knew supporters because everybody knows that.
Mm-hmm.
And winning influence in this game means that you also win any ties.
Yeah.
Which that one is super and you
yeah, and the only game I lost was the first game.
Yes.
And after that, like I made it a key part of my strategy in all of the games to be ahead in influence.
Yes. And then you also won on supporters.
Only in the most recent one.
Well, I know, but I'm saying on this most recent one where you cleared house.
Yeah.
And a lot, because all of the different winning conditions, a lot of them are based off of like the different schools of Magic, which the supporters are definitely factor into it. So, I mean, this is basically a game about getting the most stuff. It should, whoever has the most of this, you get a point. And out of the there are 16 cards. Does that include the 2 regular cards? No, right?
No, it's definitely not including those 2 because there's more than 4 cards that don't go in each round.
You're right. So there are the 2 regular cards and then there are 16 total cards. So it's basically like how I always viewed it as there's all of these different ways to get a point, and then there are just 16 or there are just 6 of them that just aren't going to happen. And then it's all about sort of risk assessment and being like, I know, like when you were talking about me hedging my bets, I know like at the end of the game, it was always like, I was looking around. It's like, okay, on this last one, I was like, Wes is sort of going heavy on marks. I'm going to make sure that I beat him on marks in case marks is happening. And there are times I was like, oh, I know, if I know that mana I knew that mana on that one was one of the goals. And unfortunately, Wes knew that mana was also one of the goals. And so, and he was that character that I was that was really good at getting mana. And that made me go, well, fuck, I'm not, this isn't going to happen. I know unless I get super lucky, I'm not going to be winning this. And I think that this last one where you cleaned house was just one where you were able to barely win on on
a ton of things.
A ton of things.
It was like winning by 1 or tiebreaker because I had most influence.
Yeah. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think if one of because you're able to win supporter and influence, like winning both of those public ones, you were in a super strong position.
Oh yeah.
And so unless you got super unlucky with those card draws from the consortium, there was a good chance that you were going to win. That's why when you were saying at the game, you're like, I never felt like I was going to win. I know me and Wes at the very least, if not Jeff too, were like at least halfway through the game, we're like, God, fuck it, Adrian is killing it, and there's nothing that we're trying to figure out ways to stop him, and we're just like, oh, this is just ridiculous.
See, so it's interesting. So influence, I wasn't surprised I won because I was clearly I need influence.
Yeah,
but it never was like I want to get the most supporters. And I've won that in 2 different games, and I've never been like I'm going to get a bunch of supporters. And even in that game, I felt like there was the main. I don't remember what room it is, but it's the one where if you're in the merit badge spot, you get to do all 3. And then it's take 2 of the 3, take 2 of the 3, 1 and 1.
Yeah.
You guys were doing that all the damn time. There were a couple rounds where I jumped in there in 2 or 3 spots, but and almost every time you were drafting supporters. And so I was I was legitimately surprised when I ended up winning the supporters in that game, because I thought you guys had all been doing that. It felt like you'd been doing that way more and had way more supporters.
So one thing, this is the first game where we played with the light gray one, the experienced player, one that had the neutral one, because it's like student body president. And so with that one, you start off with 2 neutral mages, because everybody else starts with if you're the blue guy, you start with 2 of the blue mages. Those you start with 2 neutral ones, which have no powers, but you do start with an extra merit badge.
Yeah.
And I honestly think
that was pretty big.
That was
being able to do, because you also start at 5 influence, and then at 7 you get another one. So I was able to essentially be like, I'm going to get 2 influence and take 2 top tier positions right away. And
your power, it
was powerful. I used it a couple times early. Yes. Later, I never used it.
No, but also, I think using that one in conjunction with the Archmage's study was a bit like I wouldn't play with the Archmage's study again, mainly because you were able to immediately switch your you immediately switch your neutral ones more or less to regular guys.
I had 1 neutral in the 3rd round. Still.
Yeah.
But yeah, because nobody else had incentive, especially in the 1st round.
Yeah.
No one else has incentive to switch one. They just drafted those like they should be what they want.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I'm like, well, fuck, I don't want a neutral. Like, I'll place a neutral and swap it.
Yeah. And so I felt that if I playing this again, I probably wouldn't play with that character, or if I did, wouldn't have that one that let you swap, because I felt, especially just having that big of a bump in the merit bags, that badges that early, I think that definitely got you in a better position, because you were able to get those better things early in a way that we weren't realistically able to stop you.
Yeah. Jeff, you have anything to chime in?
I had my piece on gameplay.
Okay.
Fuck wounding. Yay, banishing.
All right. Then I think that can bring us to final thoughts. So I'll start. I don't like this game. There is a lot of good things in this game. Component quality is fantastic. The theme and the gameplay itself really connect well. Unfortunately, I don't like the gameplay. I don't think it's broken. I don't necessarily want to say it's unbalanced. Like, I do feel like this game plays the way this game was meant to play. That's just not a game I want to play. I really dislike the idea of, like, there's all these variable scoring things, and if you know a lot about them, that doesn't necessarily help you, and you can totally win really strongly not knowing anything about them. Like, I mean, hell, I totally gave away what I looked at the beginning of that last game, so everybody knew.
Yeah, that was intelligence, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. That was one where I was like, I said the wrong thing, and then I was like, well, I could play it off, and then I played it off, but then I was like, now I'm going to make a joke about it and confirm that I was trying to play it off.
Yeah, that reminds me of when we were playing Werewolf and I accidentally gave away that I was a vampire.
Yeah. But yeah, I like that really bothers me. It does a good job of, or a bad job of, depending on your opinion on this. But it's definitely a game where I feel how you feel like you're doing isn't an indication of how you're actually doing. You know, like that first game, Jeff was like, fuck this, I'm completely out of it. And then he won solidly, you know, and then like this
and a lot of it was the ones that I don't think anyone even seen, and I just happened to have them.
Yeah. And this most recent one, you know, the one that I did really well on, like, we got to the final scoring and I won. I was like, wow, that's strange, because I didn't feel like I was doing good. Whereas like you and Wes were apparently like, holy shit, Adrian's doing really good.
Yeah.
So like how you feel like you're doing might not be at all indicative of how you're actually doing, which I don't like in games as much.
I know Wes said he felt that the gameplay felt disconnected from the scoring. Would you agree with that?
I think yes, but for different reasons. Okay. My problem with the gameplay related to scoring is like, if I know that green supporters is one of those scoring conditions, it can be hard to focus on green. Like, green spells might not come up, or the green spells that do are distinctly weaker than the other spells. So it's like, well, do I just pump time and effort into a shitty spell because I know it's a scoring? Or do I go for a better spell that hopefully will help me do better in other areas?
Diversity.
You know, and same thing like getting supporters. It's like, well, I can do these like hidden supporters where I just draw off the top and hope for the best, and I don't even get a power. Just I look at it and I got that color. It goes in my discard. Or I can draft, but again, maybe the only green out there is the green guy who doesn't have any abilities. And like, do I want to sacrifice no ability for? So it feels hard to know what a scoring is, but then actively work towards completing it with few exceptions. Like influence is really straightforward. Supporters is pretty straightforward. If you happen to know gold or mana are in there, those are straightforward. But a lot of the other ones feel very just vague and nebulous.
Like what?
Like the influence ones, like having most green magic influence, like because it's total magic.
You mean okay? I see you're saying it's like you don't know if someone's necessarily doing better at it than you.
Yes, and it's just hard to like focus on that as a thing, like I said, because the green spells that come out might be shitty, or the green supporters that come out might be shitty, and even then it might be hard to get into a position to take the green one. Like somebody else might get better on a track than you, and you could invest a lot of time playing reds to kill them, and then you get into weird battles back and forth of killing each other. And
well, I think this is that's part of the game too, is to realize when to let, like, even if you know that green is gonna win, if you see someone that through other ways they keep grabbing the green stuff, then it's at some point you got to be like,
you got to cut your losses. Yeah. But then you also, so then if you're doing that, you're having to keep track of multiple potential situations. Like, oh, Zach's doing good at green, he's doing good at it. Like, it's a lot of balls to juggle in that sense, especially when there's no cues to it. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think any of these things are broken or bad, or like, I think most of the things that I don't like about this game are intentional design decisions that just aren't geared towards me as the type of gamer I am.
Gotcha.
So I think that I don't need to say much more about it. So Jeff, what about you? What do you think?
I like this game. It's got awesome worker placement. I like the merit badges that lets you go to like the super powerful spots.
Yeah.
And how it's based off the influence track, and influence is important, and the more influence you have, the more merit badges you have. The real problem I have with the game is the A/B sides and which ones you use and what best interactions there are with the games. And how I like playing this game is using the spells, and a lot of them unfortunately kind of are super useless depending on what you're using. When in certain combinations of the wizards we were using, like the blue wizards were immune to spells, and I don't know if anyone at any point ever used a spell on a blue wizard and they were like, nope, sorry, I'm immune. I'm not sure if that ever came up once, versus the like, I have a green guy and he's totally immune to wounding, and that came up constantly every single turn.
You're trying to say it's like, I want to move that blue guy, but I can't. You're saying that never came up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like it's like,
I thought you were trying to say it's like no one went like, I'm gonna move that blue guy, and then the other person's like, nope, sorry, you can't. I'm immune. I thought you were saying, sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, no shit, that didn't happen because it's blue. No one's gonna be like, I want to target that blue guy.
But no one ever had a problem moving the blue guy because they could just fucking wound it. Yeah. And it was gone. Where the green guy, it's like, all right, put the green guy there, and now there's literally nothing anyone can do about that for any time. And I had a bunch of spells that were like, fucking clear 4 rooms with wounds, and I was like, that room's totally immune, that room's totally immune, that room's totally immune because it's got blue guys. And
well, and then it's also the ones we didn't even really talk about shadowing or anything like that. But
no, yeah.
You can't attack things that are shadowed unless you said specifically you can attack.
And shadowing lets you put your dude, like every room spot has a second spot right behind it.
Yeah.
That lets you also be in that, but just, right
behind
second.
Them. Yeah.
But they're all still do the same actions. So it lets you double up on stuff, but you can't just move there. You have to have an ability or something that lets you move there.
Yeah.
So you can kind of jam a bunch of people in there, but everyone just was like, all right, let me max out on the green dudes, and now no one can interact with my pieces at all. So it definitely needs the right amount of balancing on the wizard cards and certain people's playstyles, because my playstyle was like, I'm going to wound your guys out, but every time I wanted to play that kind of playstyle, I didn't have the ability to interact with people's pieces.
I know near the end of that last game we played, Wes was getting super pissed at me because I kept wanting to go to the places where he is, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to wound you because of, like, I kept finding the right spots that I wanted.
Yeah.
He didn't protect well enough.
Yeah.
So
But once people got the strategy of just like, green guy's there.
Yeah.
And it's going to be there for the rest of the game. Or rest of the round.
At least you can only take 2 of them. And you can get up to 7 guys.
But I don't like that level of like immunity in this
like
game.
I said, that's
especially with how much their spells that you've counted out are like go wound.
So question, do you think if you just switch the green guy to the other side and now only item cards or spells can protect against wounding?
Yes.
You would rather play it like that?
Yes,
okay.
Very much so.
Do you think wounding would get too powerful then, or do you think that that's part of the game?
I think it would be more part of the game because there are so much of other cards that let you pull guys out of the infirmary and back into it. But I think the general balance of the game should have had more banishing in it.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that.
Where banishing, it takes the guy off the spot, but it also puts it back into that player's pool and not into the infirmary.
Right.
Which can be a powerful thing, like what you were talking about, Zach. You know, if you end up in a situation where you have a lot more actions than everybody else and you're worried about them running out, start banishing their things.
Yeah.
You know, send them back so they have to take another turn around. Or, you know, they want to take another turn around. I guess they don't have to.
It's like I banished Jeff's thing, and then Adrian, you grab the last bell tower. So then he just lost out on a guy.
Yeah. And I think the banishing is a much more interesting strategy and interactivity thing than wounding. And the game in general is just a lot more wounding.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Zach.
I really like this game also. Probably more than Jeff.
Probably.
Yeah. I think the things that, you know, the complaints I have with the game are the miniatures,
the bases
of the miniatures and how those colors. And that's fixed with the second game or the second edition.
Yes.
That the game takes longer than the 30 minutes, and I think that's just because of all of the new information that gets added each round.
Every turn.
Or,
not every turn, but almost every turn, because if you buy something, there's a new card out.
I never feel like I'm just... I mean, I there have been times when I'm like, whose turn is it again? But I never feel like I'm just not paying attention to the board.
It's Adrian's because he's waiting forever.
Yeah. But I always feel involved whenever I was playing, like even when it wasn't my turn. I remember one of the times, it was one of the few times that you actually tried to wound somebody, Jeff, and you were looking at all of these things that can't be wounded, and there were like 3 things that could. One of which was one of my guys that I absolutely did not want you to wound. And so you're trying to decide all these things, and I'm just sitting there like, you know, smiling like, just trying to act like I'm not really paying attention. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, Jeff, don't you fucking kill it. Swear to God, if you fucking kill this guy, Jeff, I'm so goddamn pissed.
I remember that.
Yeah. I like that. I really like, so the things that I like that it's a worker placement that is super interactive.
Very.
And I like that it is direct interaction, not indirect through just like blocking. It's, you block my thing where I'm going to fuck that guy up for blocking it.
Yeah.
I also like the insane amount of variability that this game has.
Very much so.
For setup and just all like
items and supporters.
Yes.
And all the supporters have a different ability on them that can be like dump money into this and get a whole bunch of points.
Right. And then I like that if you think like if you're like, oh man, I just really hate how these green guys are just immune to wounding, you can be like, well, now they're not because you just flip to the other side and now it deals something different. And I like that I like that the tiles have an A and B side that are the same sort of thing but play slightly different. That it's always like, oh, let's see what this one happens. You know how this one's, and if you play with the same tiles, moving them around to different locations changes how the game actually works out. Because if it's very influence heavy in the beginning, like, oh sweet, I can plan for getting an extra merit badge, where it's always like if that's at the end, you're like, that sucks.
Yeah. The order of operations of the game.
But honestly, one of my favorite things about the game is the scoring system.
Yeah.
Because I love the fact that it's, like I was saying, that it's sort of risk management, that it's like, I know all of these things can score and I can try and spend time to figure out which ones are, or I can take risks. I can be like, okay, like I said, near the end of the game, there was one of the games where I was like, okay, well, I have the most mana now. It's like, I'm looking, okay, I have the most mana. I've got the most money. I'm pretty sure I have the most greens and all these things. It's like, some of these things I know, some of these things I don't, some things I know that I'm not going to get. And then it's always just like, all right, let's see if luck's on my favorite. Like, and I'm perfectly fine with, 10 times out of 10, it just every time it's always just like, and all of those cards you planned for, those are all in the box right now. I just find that hilarious.
God, that especially with how long this game takes, that just makes me feel like I just wasted so much time. Like
I don't play the game. I like winning is cool, but if I lose because of a random thing, that doesn't bother me. So I think if that bothers you, this game is not for you.
Yeah.
But if you feel that you would like worker placements, but you always feel that they are too much like solitaire or just too much indirect stuff. If you want stuff with direct interaction, this game has it in spades.
Yeah.
Does have a ton of interaction.
Yeah. And if you like variability, this game has it too.
Yep.
And if you like I think if you like the theme too, then I think.
Yeah. Because the theme does come through very well in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So,
heavy interaction, thematic, random winning conditions.
Which is so many things that I don't. When you put it like that, it's a wonder I was ever excited to play this game.
Yeah.
Like, I just heard worker placement. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. No, there's more to.
Way more.
Yeah. Yes.
Right on. Well, that wraps up our side of the review.
Yeah. When do we want to talk about second edition stuff? Just for
right right now.
Just want to make sure you were going to go into like Board Game or Twitter.
No,
that's all.
So that wraps up our end of the review. Like we mentioned, the second edition just kickstarted earlier this year, and we'll be delivering later, like first, second quarter 2018, April-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And that does a few things. Zach, you want to run on through some of the updates and changes from first to second edition?
Yeah. So the main difference is the minis. They just got all new minis, and they changed how you actually keep track of them. So like we said before, it was this sort of base thing, and then there was all the one color, and then you had this cardboard token on the side. Now, each mini has its own. It has its own circular base, and then you have a clip. Like Blood Rage or like all of those Cool Mini or Not games, and a lot of other ones have started doing that now. It's the same sort of thing, and that color that you clip on represents your thing, so it's going to be a lot easier to look at a glance to see which ones are yours.
I don't want to murder my own guys.
Yeah.
Which one is mine?
I feel like at least once you tried to do that, and you're like, wait, no, that's mine.
That's
Shit.
mine. Yes. Yeah. No, definitely did that.
No, because that was a great round, because he was like, I'm definitely murdering this one. Like, that's yours. And he goes, oh, okay, I'll murder somebody else. He went, I can't. I'm not murdering anybody. Like, the only person who was murderable was his own person.
Yep. I'm going to take 2 mana with this action card. Your turn.
But yeah, aside from the component upgrades, and then like I said, there's an extensive FAQ and errata. They're fixing all the misprints and
the rule book's a lot better. And they did change a couple cards. Like they made changes to the cards and to 1 or 2 of the tiles that were printed. So you remember that astronomy tower where it said it had the
3 in one spot and 4 in another?
Yeah, it's supposed to be 4. So we were playing that wrong.
Yeah. So they'll fix things like that, little typos and issues, but more or less, like it even said on the Kickstarter, it's mostly a straight reprint.
Yeah, and so they did an upgrade kit on the Kickstarter. I don't know if that's gonna come to retail or not, but it was mainly just the minis that were in it.
Yeah.
So if like Adrian, your problem with the game is the core gameplay, this isn't gonna
no.
This isn't gonna fix it.
Modify it much at all.
Yeah.
Nope. Right on. If you are interested in picking up Argent, it's going to be a little while before second edition is available, like we were saying. However, you can pick up the first edition for, Cool Stuff apparently has it for $42. Otherwise, it's like $80 on Amazon for some weird reason and unavailable on a lot of the other websites. So, might be kind of hard to find, but
until that reprint comes out, and then I'm sure it'll be widely available.
Yeah, I would basically say find out first if they're going to release the upgrade kit. Because if they're going to do that, then go ahead. I'd say go ahead and get the game, but otherwise wait for the second edition.
Yeah.
And the second edition Kickstarter had a ton of little expansions. There's going to be a new color wizards.
Yes. So that was it adds the orange one, which all the base game has in it already, or it has like all the symbols for it already. It's just you need to introduce the new cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right. There were no emails.
No emails.
But if you wanted to email about Argent after you listen to this and give us your opinions, you could do that at our email address,
which is emails@milehighgameguys.com.
There was one response to Zach's incredibly long Board Game Geek post.
They're all so good.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, go read it. Don't post, just read.
Right.
Well, also post, but
and if you
definitely
feel like
read.
You don't have to post, just read it.
No, what Jeff wants you to do, you want to read this and then post
email
it via email, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's what it is.
Yep. All right. So Aaron says, I bought the first edition a couple years ago, along with all of the available expansions at the time. We played it a few times and really enjoyed it, but haven't gotten it to the table in the past year, mostly because we keep buying new games and rarely go back to old classics unless we make a concerted effort. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, I can't imagine why that would be.
This game has a lot going on and can feel very busy in the later rounds, especially with everyone's mages running willy-nilly all over campus and spells flying back and forth between the deans. That being said, I often found myself wishing the game would last one or two more rounds, Adrian, so that we could run our engines a little bit longer. Theme-wise, the game feels good, and I like the variable room tiles, which can provide a lot of replayability over the long term. I backed the Kickstarter for the second edition upgrade kit and the new expansion, and I'm hoping this will motivate me to take it off the shelf at the next game day. AA Ron.
So I agree with the sentence about theme-wise, feeling good, and variable replayability. Like, those are all positives. I'm
curious to see what this game would be like with two players.
Yeah.
Because it's... I
saw somebody posting that some of the deans become super OP at two players.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
Like the one dean that lets you, like, wound... Like the one you had, Jeff, that lets you wound and gain a influence.
The holy...
Yeah, it becomes way more powerful at two players.
Sure.
I don't know. Did you say that it's been voted heavily favored at best at 3?
I didn't mention that, but yeah. And then that after playing, like, if I were to play this game again, I would only ever play it at 3.
I can definitely see that. Yeah. It's recommended at 2 and 4, but definitely not at 5. Which is I would not play this with a 5.
No. Well, good luck finding a place to fit this game with 5.
And the expansion adds a 6th player. What?
Yeah, no, you don't need that.
Yeah. It's good that it added another faction, but definitely don't be like, oh, now we can play with 6 people.
Yeah. I'm curious, Aaron. There is a card in the game to allow it to go 6 rounds instead of 5. Have you done that? I'm assuming he has. If he's wanting to play more, he's probably done the 6th round. So does that mean that when you say that you want it to go 1 or 2 more rounds, do you want it to go 7 or 8 rounds? Like,
yeah.
Good God. Like
10 to 12 hours.
If I was in that game, I would be like, all right, first action, bell tower, second action, bell tower, third action, bell tower, fourth action. If it's still there, bell tower.
Don't you remember? It literally just says there's a way for someone to just leave the game mid-game if you want.
That's right.
True. There is rules in the rule book for just somebody piecing out, which would be me. It's like, all right, we're playing 8 rounds. I know I'm gone.
No, I gotta go. Everyone died. I have to go.
Yeah. So that was through our Board Game Geek Guild, guild number 2731, where Zach, like we said, does these awesome, long, well thought out posts that deserve more attention. So go check those out.
They're all so timely.
Don't. Why are you chuckling, Zach? We're trying to give you compliments.
Oh, it just hurts. It just feels dirty.
I'll never forget the chameleon.
Yeah.
When
Well, I didn't have to do that this time because there's so much shit to actually talk about on this one. And as you said, it was already long enough.
Yeah. When I tweeted out the BGG thread, we got a response on Twitter. Ryan from Of Dice and Men says, I'm a big fan of Argent, despite my aversion to the art style. Very interactive and variable compared to other worker placement games. I don't disagree with anything in that last sentence, but I'm still not a big fan.
Yeah. I didn't like, especially after actually playing this for like 3 times. I was like, yeah, no, if I had played this before having you play it, Adrian, I'd have been like, Adrian, you're not going to like this game.
Yeah. Yeah. If you would like to get a hold of us, there's a bunch of different ways. As we mentioned, you can email us.
Emails at milehighgameguys.com.
You can join the Board Game Geek Guild, guild number 2731. You can tweet us. I tweet under at MHGameGuys.
I am Zach_MHGG.
And I'm Jeff_MHGG.
And we also have Facebook and Instagram /Mile High Game Guys if you want to follow us over there.
And the Slack channel
Slack channel.
that the link should work forever now.
Yes, we have fixed.
Until it doesn't.
We fixed the link issues until they break again.
Yeah.
We had 4 new people join the link the Slack this month.
Nice.
Yeah. We've been talking on there more.
Yeah.
It
blows up at random times.
and in random channels.
Yes.
Like
I do like, so I just want to let everybody know we do have a local gaming one that one also serves as breakfast.
brunch coordination.
And 2 is really like, it is a local gaming, but that is heavily just this is where a bunch of random bullshit goes into.
Yeah. It's funny, like,
Even though we have a random channel.
when I do the local chat, like when I'm trying to get a hold of everybody for like, hey, who wants to play a game? And I do at channel, and it tells you like you're about to notify X amount of people in 3 time zones. It's like, this is the local channel. There should just be one time zone.
Well, and I think a lot of that is just the fact that the local gaming is also pretty much like the people that are actually in Denver. They're pretty much just our friends. So that's where the bullshit, like we just talking about.
Oh
cricket.
it was
cricket.
There was a lot about AIs in dryers recently enslaving us and talking about I don't know, high philosophy with their dryer. I don't know. It was hilarious.
Murder Island used to be active until you guys quit Murder Island.
I didn't quit Murder Island.
No. He just took a break.
Yeah.
And I've still played it. And I played it recently. So.
There's some good stuff coming.
Yeah.
Some good stuff.
But yeah, there's a bunch of different channels and things, and you can interact with us more directly. You can even directly tag us. Be like, hey, Adrian, you're a piece of shit.
Oh, please do that.
Yeah. And then if you want to support the show, we have our Patreon, patreon.com/Mile High Game Guys, where you can check out our reward tiers and see if you want to give us some monetary support. And we do still have some t-shirts. So if you'd be interested in a Mile High Game Guys t-shirt, get a hold of us and we can let you know what sizes we have available. I think we're just down to only black t-shirts now. I don't think we have any of the blue ones left. But
till we make more t-shirts.
Yeah, till we make more.
But if you're interested in a t-shirt, let us know. We got some.
Yes.
And we have our ongoing giveaway for Lisboa. And there's a bunch of different ways to enter that. And by a bunch, I mean 3. You can jump on Twitter, tweet us a discussion topic you would like to hear us cover on the show, and include the hashtag MHGG thanks.
Capital T.
That's not necessary.
No, it is, because it makes it a lot easier to track. Because if you search...
Is it really case sensitive?
I believe so, yeah.
All right, capital MHGG, capital T.
Yeah.
And then Hanks.
Yeah. Tom Hanks. Remember Tom Hanks. Yes.
Yeah. Then you can also send us an email through the earlier email address.
I believe that was emails at milehighgameguys.com.
It was. And in that one, we want to hear your board gaming disaster stories, since Lisboa is all about rebuilding after disaster. Like, did a drink get spilled on your Hero Quest you just bought for hundreds of dollars? Did a table collapse under the weight of 7 Gloomhaven boxes for some reason? I don't know.
Because you were trying to scalp them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I want to hear your board gaming
That's
disaster
a strong
stories.
table if it had 7 of them already. Like the 7th one broke it, not the 4th or 5th. Wow.
And then you can jump over to the Board Game Geek Guild, where Zach will have up a post, and we would like to hear in that post about your local gaming scene, the people you game with, where you game, how you game, why you game.
Yeah.
We want to know more about everybody's
Game groups.
Yeah. We will run that contest until December 17th, and then somebody will get a Christmas present.
early Christmas present they won't get until after Christmas.
Correct.
They will be notified as a Christmas present.
Yes.
The notification is the present.
Yes.
The game will come later. And it is open to international shipping. We'll cover up to $50 on that. So feel free to enter if you are one of our international listeners. I think that's everything. Holy crap.
Oh, God, there's so much now.
Yeah.
Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Yes. Do all those things. As always, I've been your host, Adrian.
I'm still Zach.
And I'm a wizard, Jeff.
Oh, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, you said April, June. Oh, I guess we're in fucking nearly
November.
December.
Yeah, it's almost December.
Christ.
Yeah. Time flies when you don't have a job. Trust me, I know. 5 months worth of money went by super quick.
Punchboard Media, where we all
Bring something
to the table.
Pull up a chair
at punchboardmedia.com.